Homer, City Council Member.
Dr. Joseph Ford, City Council Member.
Shelby Carcelari, City Council Member.
Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Troy Tabor, City Council President.
Mike Warrington, City Council Member.
Tim Berry, City Council Member.
Chief Buchanan, Police Department.
Donna Davis, Chief Financial Officer.
Lance Onsta, Assistant City Administrator.
Chad Russell, Fire Chief.
Rick Lanzers, Director of Public Works and Utilities.
Kimberly Gilchrist, Associate, Triplet with Garrettson.
JT Klaus, City Attorney.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Susan Renner, City Clerk.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator.
Right. And this time we'll do an invocation, and it's Kyle Kackelmeyer of Journey Church. Was I close this time?
That was pretty good.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have to admit.
I'm trying to practice.
It was the delicate pause in between that really helped you out there. All right, let's pray. Gracious God, we are thankful as we sit here and we recognize your presence among us. We thank you for our various roles and opportunities to serve the city. We pray for wisdom and discernment to flow through this space. We recognize that there are many who call this city their home, that come from all walks of life. And we pray that we would seek you and seek guidance to care for all people throughout this city and up those who are particularly most suffering and vulnerable among us. Lord, may our time be filled with grace and your mercy. In your name we pray. Amen.
Man.
Amen.
All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we open up the public forum, I just want y'all to notice there's a difference in here tonight. Chief Keller, that served this community for a long time, has retired. And I can't emphasize enough how much he's done for this city, been ahead of the curve in growing this city's police department while the city was growing rapidly. But he's left us in very good hands with Captain Buck Buchanan. And I just want everybody to know that he is retired and going to enjoy some time in Italy with his darling wife. So we move on, but let's keep him in our minds and our hearts as we go forward. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I would say Chief Buchanan, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Did I say that?
You said Captain.
I'm sorry, bud. God, it'd be a couple more years. I'll get it right. I'm so sorry. All right. Public forum. If you'd like to say something, stand up, state your name, your address, and if you would, keep it short. Nobody? Daniel? Nothing? All right. Public forum's closed. Acceptance of agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Jenny, are there any changes to the agenda?
Oh, there's one typo on the consent agenda. The revised job descriptions is not a public works job description. It's for the police department and 911, but substantially, no, there is no change.
Perfect. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept the agenda as modified at the time of the meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 7-1, home rule day. Are you reading that, Ms. McCausland?
I was going to have you read it, but I'm happy to read it if
Oh,
you'd
no,
like
I
me
read
to.
it. It's got your name beside it on this deal, so no.
I just think it's an important thing that we should take a minute and recognize.
I agree. All right. Proclamation. Whereas on November 8th, 1960, the voters of Kansas approved a constitutional amendment granting cities home rule authority. The home rule amendment took effect in Kansas on July 1 of 1961. Home rule gives local governments, specifically cities, the power to make decisions at the local level based on the unique needs of the values of their residents. And whereas the city across our great state managed differing opinions and views on issues ranging from from zoning to funding for local services and programs. Home rule control keeps control of the community in the hands of local residents. And whereas the home rule amendment empowers the cities to determine local affairs and government actions, including the levy of taxes, fees, charges, and other exactions. And whereas the city of Andover and the League of Kansas Municipality Cities continually work to educate and engage municipal officials, the legislature, and the general public about the importance of home rule and local decision-making. And whereas the 60th anniversary of the passage of constitutional home rule is a fitting time for all municipalities to engage their residents about the Kansas Constitution and local laws, so that all Kansans may continue to receive the many benefits of home rule. Now I therefore, Mayor Ronnie Price, have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Andover to be affixed to the 28th of September, 2021, and proclamation October 11th, 2021 as Home Rule Day.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. Jenny, why October 11th?
That is the day that the League of Kansas Municipalities asked us all to celebrate. And since that's the day before your next council meeting, I thought we should do it at this one. But that was what they put
I just
out
would have
there.
thought November 8th because that's when it passed. And,
Yeah.
But
I don't-
October 11th. Okay.
I don't know. It's gearing up to the league's state conference. So perhaps they're trying to kind of do a campaign and build awareness within that week, because I believe most of you will be going to the League of Kansas Municipalities the weekend immediately before the 11th, if my memory is correct. Okay.
All right. Presentations, AFR Autism Toolkit. Chief Russell's going to talk to us about, oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, Mr. Mayor. If it pleases you, I would introduce Lieutenant Frank Shaw and his non-speaking partner, firefighter Panalejo, who's going to stay as far away from the podium as possible, probably.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. As he said, I'm Lieutenant Frank Shaw, and I just wanted a few minutes to speak about an important topic. Your fire department just recently learned of some valuable information. We wanted to share it with you about people with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. We recently brought in some representatives from a local company, HeartSpring, to speak with our members about ASD. They have an excellent history of raising awareness and helping families in dealing with ASD. Your fire department always strives to deliver the best in customer service, so we always want to learn from the best. The importance of what you need to know in helping people with autism could be crucial during a time in an emergency scene. What is autism? There's no one type of autism, but many. Autism or autism spectrum disorder refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. According to the CDC, an estimated 1 in 54 children affected by ASD in the United States. Imagine you're a child with ASD and you were just involved in a car accident. There was just a loud crash. There's now smoke coming from the engine compartment. There are strangers running up to the car that want to help, and all while they have no idea you have ASD. Then emergency vehicles start arriving: police, fire, EMS, bright lights flashing, sirens blaring, and then emergency personnel start running up. We may even have to pop a door or break glass or cut metal just to gain access and do patient care. All these things are going around. A person can tend to be overwhelming for anyone, not to mention somebody with ASD. Therefore, we need to try and quickly be able to recognize a person with ASD so we can provide the best possible care. Some signs of autism could include avoidance of eye contact, repetitive behaviors such as clapping, rocking, or spinning, unusual and intense reactions to sounds, smells, lights, or even textures, persistent repetitions of words or phrases. So your fire department has decided it would be helpful to build some kits to put in our trucks to assist when we encounter a person with ASD on an emergency scene. There are many different options to choose from that are helpful with persons with ASD, and they can be different with each person depending on their specific needs. So we put these kits together with a few different items, and again, there are many. And we would likely, if we encounter a person with ASD, we could show them the boxes. They're very quick to recognize some of the items that might be helpful to them. Some of the examples are things like sunglasses that are good for sensitivity to bright lights. Noise reducing headphones for sensitivity to loud sounds. Different fidgets, such as fidget spinners, keychains, cubes that are good to help people pay attention that might be an anxious individual. It gives them a way to focus and concentrate on one thing and eliminate all the things, the chaos going on around them. Or even like a kaleidoscope is good for a visual stimulation and could be a calming effect. Other examples could be baseball caps, cards, noise makers, exercise balls, weighted blankets, or lap belts. Again, there are many options depending on the needs. There are many different ways to trigger exterior senses to visual sounds and smells that can increase the level of stress and trigger a flight, fright, or freeze reaction. All these different items can lower stress levels and give self-regulation. Our goal is to help people with ASD feel safe, not be scared, and want to run away from us. Once again, in the world of fire service, you never know what you might encounter, so we always want to be prepared to deliver excellent service.
Any
Questions?
That's great. That was very good.
Thank you for your time.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, A2, Greater Andover Days presentation and request. Katie.
Hello. So we come every year to talk about Greater Andover Days, and we're a little later this year because the festival is a little later this year. But I've put a run through on the in your guys' packet. I just wanted to talk about a few things today. The dates of Greater Andover Days are October 14th through the 17th, and the theme this year is Forward Together. I did not bring a button today, but if you have seen our button, it was designed by a local resident, Olivia Owen. She's 7, and I think it looks really great. So she won the contest, and that's what we've been using as our button design and for the theme. So it's really cool. Buttons are on sale now throughout the city, including here at City Hall and the library. $3 until October 14th, and then the price goes up to $5. So you can buy it at the festival, but you should buy them in advance because it's like 40% discount. So buy them in advance. And you do need buttons to get into most things. So there's a list in the packet, but it's banks in town, the chamber, music scene, Andover tutoring scene. Again, here, Dillon's is a big one too. So some of the events this year: Thursday night, we're doing a movie in the park. Friday night, we have the tailgate party, and we will be showing the Andover versus Andover Central game on the screens. So if you don't have tickets to the game, or you're not going to go to the game, come on out here and tailgate with us, and then watch the not Crosstown Classic, but I'm from Chicago. That's what they call it there. But the hometown game. And then Saturday, we have most of our events. We have hay maze, pedal cars, water balloons. That's new this year. We do have a carnival on Friday and Saturday night. We were able to secure some rides for that. So yay. And then we have a golf tournament Saturday morning. That's new. Of course, the parade and the business expo, car show, kid fest, that's all the same. Fishing, archery, pet show, hot dog watermelon contests, the Artie Fun Run on the Redbud Trail. And then we have a concert in the park with 2 bands. We have local band Chronic Audio opening at 6, I believe. And then Rising Country Trio Texas Hill will play at 8, sorry, at 8. And then fireworks will follow. And then Sunday we have Generations Church will come out here for community service, and then we'll have disc golf in the park. We'll have pickleball over at 13th Street, and yoga in the park as well. So we've got a lot of new things this year and a lot of the same stuff as well. So we're really excited. We do still need volunteers. I've listed it in there. If you guys are interested in volunteering, I'll follow up in an email as well. So no need to tell me today or anything like that. But if you guys are interested, I'll follow up with you guys, and we'll go from there. But there are a couple things that you guys officially have to approve, but that's why we're here today. But I can answer any questions you guys have as well.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve Greater Andover Days request to allow for the sale of goods on public land and allow food trucks to vend in Central Park through the duration of the festival from October 14th to 17th, 2021, and approve the request to close Central Park south of Bush Parkway from 5 p.m. on October 15th through 6 p.m. on October 17th.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Request to shoot fireworks. Oh, boy.
So as part of Greater Andover Days, we shoot fireworks off of Saturday night, and this is sponsored by Andover State Bank. They've been sponsoring the fireworks for years, and we're very grateful for that. We will be using Stellar Fireworks, and Wholesale Fireworks has also agreed to donate some fireworks for this as well. So the fire department approved the permit, and attached is where the shoot site is. Will be on Yorktown Road, and so there's also a street closure request there as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to approve the request to shoot fireworks on Yorktown Parkway at approximately 9:15 p.m. on October 16th, 2021 for Greater Andover Days and close Yorktown Parkway from Dam Road to Central Avenue from noon to midnight on October 16th, 2021.
Second, Troy.
Any further discussion?
How are we going to handle parking, Katie?
So we always reserve the school parking lots. Thursday night, we can park along the Millings lot, which is across from the lodge. And then Friday night, they can still park there. But we have, we don't allow parking really in the park on Friday or Saturday. So they all park at the schools and walk over. And we have a shuttle.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Consent agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to approve the consent agenda items 9-1 through 9-6 as presented.
Second, Homer.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Cornerstone 11th, bid award paving and incidental drainage. And Rick is going to speak with us about this evening.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we opened bids for this project. This is the paving portion and incidental drainage that goes along with the street portion of this subdivision. You may remember earlier in a previous council meeting, the utility work was approved and awarded to a contractor and is ongoing now. This is the next phase of that subdivision 11, Cornerstone 11. The bids were underneath the engineer's estimate and also under the petition limits. I would remind you that this is one of those 75-25 splits where the city is picking up 25% of it. This is one of the few remaining additions of that model, and we're getting towards the end of that. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to try to answer them.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to accept the lowest qualified bid from APAC Kansas Incorporated, Wichita, Kansas, in the amount of $468,540 and reject all other bids, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract for the Cornerstone 11th paving and incidental drainage improvements.
Second, Troy.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. At this time, I'm going to recuse myself and hand it over to President Tabor to take care of the next three sections.
Thank you, Ronnie. All
right, we're going to move to item 11 regarding the heritage. 11.1 is the public hearing and redevelopment project plan adopting ordinance. So I'm going to go over that. Go ahead.
Okay. And Council President, I do believe that we've got Jerry Jones here with the development team who would be happy to present the changes to the project plan. And I believe is Kevin on Zoom? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Kevin Lee is also here with Polsonelli to represent the developers. So I don't know, do you have something to say, Jerry, or do you want Kevin to launch in? Perfect.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks.
Thank you for this opportunity to come before you. I'm Jerry Jones, representing the Heritage Square Andover. My partners are also here tonight, Mike Leese, Lance Beal, Dave Burke, and Dave Wells. We also have Scott Bonebrake with Key Construction, who is the project manager for this project. And as we mentioned, Kevin Lee, our counsel, is joining us from Kansas City tonight. So again, appreciate this opportunity. Quick background, the Heritage Tax Increment Financing District was created in 2019. We came back before you earlier this year to amend that project plan and also a development agreement for a new project area 2, which is the Heritage Square project. And that project includes 186 apartments, approximately 50,000 square feet of commercial, parking facilities to serve the commercial, a hotel, the apartments, and the town plaza. It also includes the hotel and a senior living facility. As you're all aware, in this post-COVID environment, the cost of materials and labor throughout the country, probably throughout the world, have just gone crazy. There's a tremendous amount of inflation, and the $13.5 million cost estimate that was part of our project plan, which we thought was very conservative at the time, has turned out not to be so. We are through our construction documents for those parking facilities. They've been turned into the city for building permits so that we've got very good plans. We put those out to bid, and the project came in $2.2 million over our budget. So tonight we are here seeking your approval to increase the amount of the TIF bonds to cover this cost. So that is what we'll have Kevin just give you a very brief overview of the changes to the project plan that will be approving, and also the development agreement. I do want to point out, just so that the people of Andover understand and know that we do have skin in the game, that this development team is paying 100% of the property taxes that'll be generated from the development of this property, as well as the 100% of the sewer and transportation fees for this project, which are substantial, over $600,000. Also, we've already invested over $1 million just in professional services fees to date on the project. That does not include the land that Mr. Leese and Lance put together over a 15-year period. So we are doing everything within our power to bring this project to fruition, and with your approval, hopefully tonight, we are prepared to move forward with this transformative project. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to just briefly again walk through the changes, the actual changes in the project plan.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry, and thank you, Mayor, members of the council, for having us this evening. Kevin Lee, the Polsonelli Law Firm, appearing on behalf of Heritage Square and the developer team. Jerry did a good job explaining the reason for the request that we have before you this evening on the increased bond amount. I'm going to speak just for a few minutes to the resulting changes to the project plan, and then also the justification for that in terms of revenues. And so really, as Jerry noted, the only change or substantive change to the project plan is just to adjust the net bond proceed amount and to update the feasibility study that's required by Kansas statute to be included along with that. And I think what you'll see is that we've got an increased bond amount, but fortunately there are a number of different backstops and mechanisms already in play to ensure that there's no adverse impact to the bondholders or to the city as a result of that. The first is the concept of crossover between project areas. And so we have two separate project areas, 1 and 2. The request before you this evening relates to project area 2, and that is where the increased bond amount applies to. And I believe it's included in your packet are Dustin's revenue projections based on the updated request. And I think he would tell you the same thing, that those are using extremely conservative assumptions of no inflation over the term, and also conservative with respect to appraised values at build out. And even in that scenario, what we're showing is that we're covered on a combined basis between both project areas in terms of revenue, and that there's sufficient revenue there and quite a bit of surplus to cover both of those. Additionally, looking at just project area 2 alone in a vacuum, we now have an increased unit account on the apartment project from what we had when the project plan was initially approved. And just that change alone, utilizing the same assumption for appraised per unit, bumps project area 2 revenues up to ironically roughly the same delta that Dustin was projecting beforehand. And we've also seen, unfortunately, as costs have risen, that also means that property values are rising as well. And so we think between the adjusted site plan, the increased unit count, and just applying modest inflation, that project area 2 alone has sufficient coverage as well. And then, of course, we've got in the development agreement, the developers for both project areas posting substantial letters of credit. And with respect to the project area 2 developers, that amount has now been increased commensurate with the requested increase to the bond amount. So a number of different ways to look at it in the revenues, and happy to get as deep into that as you guys would like and stand for questions. But I think the overall takeaway is that there are a number of different.
Does anyone on council have any questions?
I mean, essentially, nothing's changed since the August workshop. Is that correct? Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, well, we have a motion in front of us. Would someone like to make?
Do we have to?
You need to open
Open
a
the
public
public hearing?
hearing, please.
Mr.
If anybody
President.
would like to speak.
Mr. President needs to open a public hearing. I would open a public hearing. Do I have to have?
If they need to come forward, should they state their address and name at the podium?
Yes, if anybody would like to discuss this item, please come forward to the podium or online and state your name and address. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Doesn't appear to be anyone here. So I guess we're going to close the public forum and move on to the recommendation.
Mr. President,
Yes, Elmer, go ahead.
I move to approve an ordinance adopting an amended and restated redevelopment project plan area 2 within the Andover Redevelopment District 2019 and providing for financing of such district.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 11.2, First Amendment to Development Agreement.
Council President and Council, I am largely the development agreement that's before you tonight just says the same things that you've just heard in the revised project plan. It does memorialize the increase in letter of credit required, which is at that same 67% that Area 2 was previously. Dustin Avey, can you hear me?
Yes, Jenny, I can hear you.
Okay, so your financial advisor is available on Zoom if you have any questions for him with regard to the impact of the increased debt issuance, how that's impacting those financials. Those were available in item 11.1 if you want to see the previous financials of Area 1 and Area 2 combined and the proposed financials of Area 1 and Area 2 combined. If not, Your city attorney worked hard with the developers' attorneys to work on this development agreement, so I'm sure he would, Mr. Klaus would be happy to answer any questions you may have as well, but the main difference is the increased letter of credit.
Council, does anyone have any questions?
So, Mr. President, the same question. Is there any significant changes from our workshop in August to any of this?
No, this just really memorializes, I mean, there was like, the bonds needed to be issued by September 1, which were obviously passed, so that's no longer in there. So I mean, there's some really small little things, but no, substantially, it's what you've already heard both at the workshop and then in the presentation tonight.
Perfect, Jenny. Thank you. Mr. President,
Go ahead, Homer.
I move to approve the First Amendment to the Developers Agreement between Heritage Landing LLC, Heritage Landing 2 LLC, Heritage Square Andover LLC, and the City of Andover, Kansas for development of the Heritage Edition Area 2 and Heritage Development Tax Increment Financing District Area 2, and authorize the mayor to sign such an agreement.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
That's a lot of words just in there.
Thank you.
That is. Good job, Homer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11.3, the go bonds for this.
The only thing I would point out here that I don't think I did a very good job calling your attention to in the memo is that the sale of bonds will be on November 30th, which is a regularly scheduled city council meeting. So we would bring that to you that evening. But I believe everything else has been outlined in the memo. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or again, you've got Mr. AV and Mr. Klaus available.
We've had some pretty exceptional rates for bonds in the last year or more. Is the market still the same?
Very good question. If you had asked me that question a week ago, the answer would have been yes. You've probably seen some volatility this past week, not only in the stock market, but also in the treasury market. Treasury market is rallying in terms of, or selling off in terms of price, and yields are going up. So we have seen a little bit of a volatility. 10-year treasury, I think today ended at a 1.55%, whereas it was closer to a 1.35% here a little over a week ago. So we have seen a little bit of rate movement. Historically speaking, I still think we're within the parameters that we've used from the rate assumption perspective in the financial analysis, but certainly we're watching things very closely. As Jenny alluded to, we can't sell the bonds until November 30th because of the publication and petition process. And so really our hands are somewhat tied with respect to moving forward with the sale of bonds until that process is concluded. And so November 30th is the earliest we can proceed with that process.
All right. Thank you, Dustin. Anyone on the council have any questions?
I guess my question is, what happens if they don't have the letters of credit? The bonds just don't go through, or we don't issue the bonds?
Correct. We have requested the letters of credit by November 9th so that we would have time to not advertise the sale, which there is some cost associated with advertising the sale. So that's why that we're requesting those in advance of publicizing the bond sale.
Good question.
Good question, Tim. Thank you. Mr. President.
Like I'm in
Go ahead,
kindergarten.
Good question. Homer, go ahead.
I move to approve the sale resolution authorizing and providing the public sale of city's taxable general obligation tax increment bonds, Series B 2021, and a total principal amount of approximately $16,940,000 and authorizing Piper Jaffray and Company to market such bonds.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Good job, Homer. You read that.
Thanks. Thanks, Tim.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Good job, everybody. Moving on to item number 12, and it looks like the mayor is back. Thank you, everyone that was here for this.
We're not going to make Jerry stay the whole meeting.
Thank you, Troy.
No problem.
All right. Code of the City of Andover, proposed charter ordinance newspaper designation. Susan Renner, city clerk, will speak to us about this.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The proposed charter ordinance before you is strictly to change who we do our publications with. There's a lot of items that we publish. Ordinances all have to be published in a local newspaper. Some resolutions do. We have quarterly reports that go in there. We have public hearing notices. We have planning and zoning notices. So there's a lot of things that we do publish. Unfortunately, the world of newspapers has dwindled over the last years, probably since the invention of the internet. Social media is taking over. There's not as much coverage in our, what we call our local paper. When I started here, we were with the Andover Journal, that's what it was. Through time, we've had to change those newspapers because one or the next would go out of business. And currently we publish with the Butler County Times Gazette. And their staffing goes along with the decrease in utilization of newspaper. And unfortunately, we've had more and more publications get missed. The last one that was published on the wrong date was our budget. Fortunately, it was at least published within the window that we're required to publish it by. But I like to had a heart attack when I went back to see that it missed the dates that I felt that it was going to be in there. I do check the publications as soon as I get the newspaper to make sure that they are in the newspaper. So what we'd like to do is to change it from the Butler County Times Gazette to our city website. Now, the information is pretty much up there anyway, or at least all of our ordinances are. And if I have to publish a resolution, it's out there and all. But this would make it an official newspaper where we could just put the information out on our website and make sure that all of our citizens, if they're interested, know that that's where the information is, that they can go look for it. Of course, the information is in their packets if they go and look at the packet. But some people, may not want to do that. They want to just see a list of everything. And I don't know. I think it would make our life easier. It'll put that pressure back on me to make sure that the publication is out there, and also JT's staff. And he may have something he'd like to speak to about this. I'm not sure, but they did prepare the ordinance for us. They've also prepared the resolution. If you decide to accept this proposed charter ordinance tonight, we have to wait 60 days. It has to be published, and then we'd come back to you with a resolution for adoption of the resolution stating that we change it to our website. There are other cities in Kansas that are doing this. It falls under the home I want to say home run rule, the home rule, because we are city of the second class, and it's defined by different first class and then cities of the second and third class. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Susan, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Susan, so what had previously been published in the newspaper would have its own unique page, and all in a list as things are published will be in that one page to find everything, or spread throughout the website?
No, it would, from what I understand, of course, no, Chastity takes care of the website. We're going to have one place, which is where you go. You can go to one place right now to see all the ordinances and resolutions, things that I've put up there that have been published, but you're going to have everything that we would publish, absolutely everything. And you wouldn't have to go to planning, and at least this is my perspective of it. You wouldn't have to go to planning and zoning or go to the code of the city of Andover, any of that. You go to one place, you're going to find everything that we're going to publish right there in one spot. And I believe that might be built on we haven't got that far, on the iCompass site with a link from the Andover KS, or we may just build it on Andover KS, whatever really works the best for our citizens to be able to access it.
I guess I just wouldn't want anything that is where we have date sensitive items that are normally published in the paper to be intermingled with a lot of erroneous stuff really to most people. So it'd be nice to have it all in a single line per se page, or just highlight just a special color or bolding or whatever, just to make sure that is called out.
What pardon me,
Yeah, go ahead.
what Councilman Tabor is trying to ask, is it easy enough for Mayor Price to find it? That's
We
the
will make
bar.
sure that it is easy enough for Mayor Price to find.
That's the bar.
I would also add, I think of extreme relevance here is last I knew, the newspaper had under 200 people purchasing the newspaper. So I am very confident that this will be more transparent and accessible to anyone with Google than what we're doing today. It's got a very limited circulation. We actually have built into our plans now to publish some things more than we have to because we anticipate it'll get missed once. So I think this is a step towards transparency, even though it may not feel like it on first blush.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think this is probably a good idea since the dwindling of the newspapers. But JT, how's the state view this on websites? I mean, social media. I mean, what do they classify as appropriate?
So to be very specific, the state law requires a paper newspaper that is published at least 50 times each year and entered into a post office of publication whereby more than 50% of its publications are sold to subscribers. That's what the state law says. That's what you'll be chartering out from under. You'll be saying that state law applies to second-class cities. It doesn't apply to all cities uniformly. And so since it doesn't apply to all cities uniformly, you're saying that's not a law for us. In the city of Andover, we're going to have a different law. And the charter ordinance that you're considering tonight, which I think Susan did a good job of explaining, doesn't change anything right now. It just kind of starts the waiting period. It leaves all that language in there and it allows you to do that. It just creates a new option that designates and allows you to designate as the official city newspaper, a designated website. We'll put some confines on that too. It has to be a public-facing website, open to users at all times, except when being serviced or during regular maintenance. It has to be easily accessible from the city's website homepage. So if it's not going to be on the homepage itself, it has to just be a button that says publications, legal publications. It has to be available free of charge, and it has to contain all current notices and unrepealed ordinances at all times. It's a little nerve-wracking for an old lawyer to see you leave the newspaper, but you are not alone in this category. And we have unofficially inquired from the Attorney General whether they have any opinion as it relates to, like, when we publish the required notices for the issuance of significant debt like bonds, how are they going to view that? Because I'd really like you not to be the first city to have a bond issue up there for approval with a website, unless they tell me, yeah, we've had that, we've seen that, we're used to that. So we have that call in and haven't had that call returned, and that's the best I can answer that question. Because, you asked me what the state thinks. They have a law. We're saying, that doesn't work for the city of Andover. I mean, Susan wasn't exaggerating. Other cities are saying the same thing, particularly small towns that don't have really a hometown newspaper anymore. So that's the best I can describe it. The change will not occur tonight, even if you were to adopt this. Your resolution in place still says you're using a newspaper, and this will just allow you to make that change after the 2 publications, after the passage of 60 days, if no one protests it. If it's protested, you'll have to have an election on the matter. But again, I don't see anything wrong with what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So would it cover us if in the paper we had an ongoing forever little message from the city of Andover that all publications are now found on the website? So therefore it's kind of pointing at the very minimum from a published print newspaper to our website.
No, that would have no legal effect whatsoever.
I feel like we should probably do that anyway for the, no, never mind.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm
Yes, sir.
And
nostalgic.
so just to clarify too, Susan, that's going to save us close to $18,000 doing it this way as far as going computer.
You know, each year is going to be different, and I believe some of the items we may recover through bonds and things like that. But what I listed to you was how much we spent in the last 2 years with the newspaper.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have anything against the newspaper, but, you know, missing publications is something that's, I'm sure Councilman Taylor, you recall, we've had to call special council meetings because a publication was missed. And it's not a publication that was missed because staff didn't get the paperwork to them on time or any of that.
That's unacceptable.
It's errors that are being made at the paper, and, you know, I can't explain why those are happening, nor do I want to say anything bad about them, because there's one person that's handling all the legals, one person for a lot of little cities around here, and that's a pretty good sized job. But for us, we can't miss, you know, we can't miss those publications.
Understood.
It will make a law go into effect a week or 2 weeks later, you know, things
Thank
like
you.
that. So
I would rather us get in trouble because we made a mistake than somebody else made a mistake, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Jenny, you alluded to or said that we have roughly 200 subscribers from the paper. How many, and Troy might be able to put this in computer terms or whatever, but how many unique users beep, beep, boop, do we have with our home page?
I would have to go and look. I don't know that off the top of my head. I would say it's 200 total subscribers. I'm inclined to think very few of them are in Andover because much of the content is also not about Andover. So I would guess that the majority of those subscribers are El Dorado or Augusta residents or in the county who may or may not be interested in Andover
Thank you.
business.
And if someone should happen to address computers like the mayor does, would they be able to get something physically printed out here at City Hall? If we should so move forward with this? Perfect. Thank you. That's a yes from Susan.
Homer, the city Facebook page has 3,210 people that follow it. So I'm sure that you could probably match that with
That's more than
the website.
200.
More than 200, yeah.
Perfect. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt a charter ordinance exempting the city of Andover, Kansas from the provisions of KSA 12-1651, providing substitute provisions regarding the designation of the city official city newspaper and creating section 1-11, chapter 1, article 1 of the code of the city of Andover, Kansas.
Second. Oh, let Mike have it.
Ms. Page, are you comfortable with this?
Yes, we're in the process of doing a redesign on our website, and I think we can make it so that it is very much in a prominent location. Sorry.
Just to repeat, yes, we're in the middle of a redesign on our website, and we can make this in a very prominent location on the homepage, so everyone will have easy access to it.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Fleet Management 13-1, Enterprise Fleet Management Agreement. Jenny's going to speak with us.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, Ken Olson is here tonight from Enterprise. As you'll recall, we talked about this topic at a workshop July. Gosh, that's been a couple months ago now. And so we have worked through the attorneys to get our agreements compliant with where they need to be to form. We've already had department heads meet with Ken virtually to spec out what the first 22 vehicles would be ordered for 22. And as you'll recall, we had budgeted to buy 6. So instead of 6 new vehicles, we would be bringing in 22. So this is going to stretch your vehicle budget a lot on an annual basis. But I would have Mr. Olson come to the podium and answer any questions or present anything about the program he'd like to tonight for the public.
Thank you all for having me tonight. Mayor, council members, appreciate you guys having me back. Also wanted to thank Jenny and all the staff for all the time and efforts that they put in over the past months. We've done quite a bit of work to get here tonight, so thank you all for that. We discussed pretty heavily in the last workshop the program in general, both from a financial and an operational perspective. Today, I want to keep it pretty high level and then answer any questions that you have. As mentioned in the previous meeting, we are the same company as Enterprise Holdings. On the fleet management side, we really leverage the tools, the people, the infrastructure, and everything that we own and operate, from having the largest fleet in the country, to help government agencies like yourself reduce their budget, save money, and bring efficiencies to the table. My role in this partnership up to this point is getting the partnership established, working through the financial strategy with the team, the vehicle options, and then the budget impact, along with contracts, language, and really getting the partnerships in place. From there, Justin Harper will be your local client strategy manager, and he's going to meet with the city at least 4 times per year to ensure that we're saving money and always doing what's best vehicle wise for the city. So key piece there is we are definitely not here to sell you some vehicles or lease you some vehicles today. We are truly here for a long-term partnership, and that's what we've worked through up to this point. So with that being said, really want to turn it over to you all and answer any questions that you have for me.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. If for some reason the lease amounts are not, we're losing money, in a year or 2 years, are we selling all of our existing vehicles? And then if we backed out, we'd have to replace them all at that point? Or are we keeping them on hand? What's the plan just in case?
Yeah, so we've the implementation process is over the next 5 years. That's how we've designed it up to this point. That said, as you likely already know, there's a lot of challenges in the vehicle industry right now. So from that perspective, we may not get all 22 vehicles, or if we do, it may be down the road a little ways. We're working through that with the team right now. From a flexibility standpoint, we can always extend the leases. So if we do plan to get out after 12 or 24 months, if the market at that point is down, we can always extend the leases out and depreciate them down further from a getting out of the lease perspective.
Okay, and these are all lease and trade back in for new ones in a few years versus lease to own.
This is an equity lease, so you do receive the equity. So for example, we're looking at F-150 pickup trucks. If we acquire that vehicle for $30,000, we fund it down to a remaining balance of $25,000, and then Enterprise sells it for you after 1 year for $35,000. You get that equity back of $10,000 or whatever it be, positive or negative.
Thank you. I'm not sure if that actually answered my question of what if we have to back out and then go repurchase all new vehicles again?
So what we would do is we would pay out the remainder of the leases. We would keep those vehicles. We would pay out the leases that we have. So we wouldn't be without vehicles. We would just need to pay off the leases that we are owing on.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I see here that the staff reached out to numerous cities around Kansas, and the one, it looks like Prairie Village was the closest to 5 years. And it also states that our savings over 10 years is about $900,000. I'm guessing we're averaging that to about $90,000 a year then, roughly. Was there any cities that you reached out to that were closer to the 10-year mark? As far as any questions with savings or anything like that?
No, Prairie Village was the longest that I
The longest one that we were, okay.
I will add Shawnee County and Lenexa have both been with us for quite some time.
Has anyone ever backed out?
No, not since I've been here for 6 years now. No, none of my clients have. The only issue that we've seen in the past, and the main reason is if we start with somewhat of a pilot program or something along those lines, which is why we have had all the discussions that we have. And really, we looked out and forecasted out for the next 10 years because we do want that long-term partnership.
is there any kind of guarantee on the savings or anything if we don't meet these benchmarks or anything?
No, there's no guarantee, and there's no guarantee from an equity perspective. And the reason that is the market is certainly fluid. That is Justin. Justin will come out, and we have a remarketing department and a strategy team that is analyzing the market, and that's why we have that flexibility built in. If we need to extend out longer or get out sooner, we have the option to do both, and we're always trying to beat the analysis that we put in place.
And then, Mr. Mayor, sorry, I've got another question. Jenny, and I don't know if this is a Jenny or Donna question, but you said we were going to be buying the 6 vehicles this new year, but now we're going with the 22. Is there any kind of immediate savings on this first year, or do you have the numbers on what the difference there would be?
So for the amount that we've budgeted for those 6 vehicles for that $250,000, you'll be able to pay for those leases for all 22. So that's essentially where that's at. Now, where we're going to start to see money come back into that fund, because we'll create a fund, an enterprise fund, is when we start selling our vehicles, because we'll also be selling 22 vehicles. These will do better than we do on Purple Wave. When we Purple Wave our vehicles right now, we're lucky to get a couple $1,000s. So we do anticipate doing better on these, but where it will really start to catch traction is when we're reselling 2-year-old vehicles that have very low mileage, because quite frankly, Andover's not a large city, so we don't have a lot of miles that we put on in that amount of time. That's when it'll really start to gain a little bit of traction. It'll be slow in the first couple of years.
Thanks, Jenny.
It's been my experience that service vehicles is what I've always called them, sell very, very, very well at a very good price. Is that not your experience as well?
They do, yes. And the city operates a lot of pickup trucks as well and SUVs. There's a huge demand for that right now, and right now more than ever before.
Can we just pre-sell them then? No, I'm just kidding.
The benefit is that we don't beat them beyond all recognition before we hand them to the Parks Department. We can actually sell them when they're still a viable vehicle, correct?
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Are we doing any kind of, when we do the repairs, I know Tim had said this in the workshop in regards to, I think having a credit card or going in. Can we use Andover businesses as far as the repairs and stuff on these vehicles if they do need them? Or the maintenance, I'm going to say oil changes, but the routine maintenances, are there any issues, or do you guys not let us use Andover businesses for those?
So we leverage the local, I actually wrote down, we have Myers Auto, Andover Firestone, Kansas Land Tire, and Park Chevrolet. So we leverage the local dealerships and local aftermarket vendors for the maintenance, but it is all managed through the enterprise program. And that is both on the city-owned vehicles that you have right now, as well as the new vehicles that will be coming in from enterprise.
And I noticed there's 2 independent places here in town or that are local to us as well that weren't on your list. Is there a way to reach out to those 2 folks as well?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
The problem with that is, Homer, a lot of those independents don't want to pay what enterprise wants to pay for that. Or they're not going to accept what enterprise is going to offer to do.
The allowable or whatever.
So I do have a question, Mr. Mayor, and this may be a Jenny staff question, but we're going from Dodge Journeys to Suburban 3 rows. I mean, how much are we may be saving money on the vehicle, but how much are we wasting on fuel?
This was a little bit of that paradigm shift we talked about. So the Journeys are going to sell on so now we're thinking about resale, which is never, ever what we've thought about before when we've gone to purchase vehicles. We've thought about lowest price and try to get the most out of it. So yes, you will see some vehicles that are higher end or larger. The other thing we talked about with the Suburbans and adding some nice 3-row Suburbans would be for the concert running that you did a lot of this summer for us. And we have to go acquire vehicles for every concert because generally the artists do
Aren't they covering the vehicles?
They did. We had a little trouble getting rental vehicles on the days of the concerts this year.
I guess my question is, Ken, right? Yeah. Why are we not doing like Ford Escapes? I know those are huge fleet vehicles. I mean, because we don't need the room of these huge Suburbans. So why not Ford Escapes or Ford Edges or, other fleet vehicles that I know that are out there?
So when we analyze this, we're looking at the incentives and the buying power on the front end versus the resale on the back end, and those are the two main contributing factors. I will say from a fuel efficiency standpoint, we will very likely beat what is in the analysis. The average age is 9 to 10 years in the fleet today. So even going from a journey that's 10, 15 years old to a Suburban, there's some fuel.
I guess I'm concerned about the employees as well, because I mean, driving a Journey is way different than driving a third row Suburban that is twice the size of a Journey. So
Certainly. And we had a Traverse in there at the beginning, and then we changed that to the Suburban due to the concerts and a few other reasons. But we can absolutely analyze that and discuss that with the team. And
I
get the
think
right
as a
vehicle.
visual aspect for the city, and y'all can say, Tim, you're stupid, but if citizens see all these nice Suburbans driving around town being driven by city workers, that's kind of a perception issue that, we're spending so much money on vehicles. Now, like I said, I know based on this, we're not, but as a citizen, am I wrong?
Mr. Mayor, if I may counterpoint that
Yeah.
in some way. So I don't think that he's the one that came up with which vehicles.
Oh,
I feel like
yeah,
our
it
staff
was
looked
staff.
at the appropriate uses and need that the city has, and then came up with a list of what kinds of vehicles we would need based on that. And we're getting brand new vehicles anyway. They're going to be neat and shiny anyway. I mean, I get your point, but I don't think that it would be appropriate to say, hey, go lower the size of the vehicles without actually speaking with the staff that came up with the requirements needed anyway, if that makes sense.
Well, and I just think, again, this is why I kept trying to stress a couple months ago. This is a paradigm shift. This is being willing to defend the program and tell citizens who might say, why does that city worker get to drive that nice Suburban? Well, the way that we're actually financing our vehicles now, we're saving thousands of dollars, and we're able to have vehicles that have less downtime, and we're able to utilize them for more multi-purposes. But it does take some political will to take that on, because there really likely will be some misperceptions. So there is a political view of this.
Personally, I love this program. I think it's great, but Suburbans, in my opinion, might be too much. I mean, the Ford Escapes or the Ford Edges or even Explorer would, I think, give a better perception than a brand new shiny Suburban that, a lot of folks in our town can't afford. So I did mention at the workshop, maintenance and repair. Do we still have control if they go in for new tires? I know through the company I use, they want the cheapest tire, the loudest, noisiest tire. Do we still have, Rick can still put nice, decent tires on his parks cars, or you guys say, no, it has to be this cheap tire no one's even heard of?
So for the current city-owned vehicles, we can customize that to whatever brand, whatever type you need. From a new vehicle perspective, as the enterprise vehicles start to show up with your low mileage patterns, majority of the vehicles will not ever have another set of brakes or tires put on. We'll be rotating them out prior to that, and we've actually left them out of the pricing for this first round of vehicles. So if you need to customize that, yes, but we'll very rarely see that. You will pop a tire, you will blow a tire, but that will be more of a one-off scenario.
Perfect.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move to authorize mayor to sign master equity lease agreement, maintenance management and fleet rental agreement, and all related amendments as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Just
Thank
as a side note, my Ford Explorer doesn't get one better drop of gas mileage than my big Chevrolet does. So, and I look a lot better than the big Chevrolet than I do the little truck. Wouldn't you agree?
You look good. You look great in both.
And since we're getting all these new Suburbans, Rick, you want to put plows on all of them, and we can get all the side streets swapped?
I'm ordering them tomorrow.
Woo.
All right. Where are we at? 14, the Green Valley, the course at Green Valley 11th, Backage Road KA 6426-01. project agreement.
You may recall a few weeks ago, we got notice that we received a grant from the Kansas Department of Transportation to build the Backage Road, not only in the Heritage Edition, but also in the Green Valley Edition. This agreement establishes the relationship between the city of Andover and Kansas Department of Transportation as to the administration and the financing of this grant. This grant was $1.2 million. It covers the construction of the Backage Road and some improvements to US 54 turn lanes around the Onewood intersection as an interim improvement before the freeway project. This is a very similar agreement to that Founders Parkway agreement in the Heritage, except that this agreement does have a few words that have been added to reflect the work done out on the main line Highway 54, which is called the City Connecting Link.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Les, and a thought on timing, if this was all approved, of approximately when we think this would happen?
We hope to be in construction mid next year.
And since the apartment complex is also showing on here, any word on approximately when that might start?
The builders of the apartment complex are like many others. Right now, they're contemplating the cost of construction and waiting, since it is a wood structure, watching those wood prices drop over the next few months as they're anticipated.
But maybe within the next year, start of construction?
The last time I talked to the developer, he still hoped to be in construction yet this year.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't need to know right now, but would you email me and tell me, because I'm going to get asked over and over and over, the distance between that
Road and the house line?
fence, the road, the other side of the road, and the buildings. You know what I mean?
Sure, it's over 200 feet.
Yeah. So I'd like to be prepared because I will get asked over and over and over. I appreciate it. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, as you know, but I like to be prepared, right? So. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd move to approve the project agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation for the construction of Founders Parkway from Onewood Drive East, quarter mile, in the course at Green Valley Greens, 11th edition, as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just to help you out a little bit, 200 feet is probably the equivalent of about 3/4 of a football field, close to, I think it's like 67 yards. So you're almost a football field from that road. Just
But you don't understand, youngster. I'm gonna explain it to you. I'm in public all day, every day. They will want to know where that road starts, where the other side of the road is, and where the building is.
I know, I was just trying to give a
So
visual.
I'm just trying to clear it up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Rural Water, number 5, service agreement, 1631 North Prairie Creek Road. Is that Les?
Yes.
Yes.
Many months ago, Mr. William Wright approached city staff about the possibility of a public water source for his house at 1631 North Prairie Creek Road. The city of Andover water lines are several hundred feet away from that subject property. However, there is a rural water 5 line across the street. This is a scenario we come onto every now and again where the boundary of rural water district 5 and the city come together, and there are those properties adjacent who can throw a rock and hit rural water 5, but have to drive a car to hit the city of Andover's lines. Mr. Wright did the entire exercise here to circulate an agreement that was prepared by the city attorney to rural water district 5, to Wichita Water, as is required by our water contract, to allow Rural Water 5 to serve across that line and give Mr. Wright water. We've got all the signatures now. It's down to the last party in this agreement. And staff recommends that the governing body approve this agreement and give Mr. Wright some public water.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the agreement between the City of Andover, William Wright, Wichita Water Department, and Rural Water District Number 5 to allow Rural Water District Number 5 to provide public water service to the property at 1631 North Prairie Creek Road.
Second.
Hey, Les, what's the green line that's on here? Is that
The
existing?
bright green lines are sanitary sewer line.
Sanitary- Okay, thank you.
Yeah, don't drink.
Yeah, don't drink.
The little dots are the manholes, I'm assuming. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Sewer line rehabilitation 2021 bid award, and Rick Landsworth will speak to us about this.
Mr. Mayor and Council, as you remember last night, we had a conversation about our sewer collection system and the great shape it's in. And part of the reason it's in such a great shape is we've had the blessing of the council to award for many years approximately $100,000 project each year for what we call cured in place pipe. This is could possibly be one of the last ones to do for quite some time. We're down to where we're having a little harder time even finding any clay pipe that we didn't already know. And we're down to doing the interceptor lines, which are 18-inch lines and such. This one happens to be kind of down by the plant, and it's just to the east of Andover Road and south of Harry. And so we do have in the 22 budget, just for your reference, council did approve another $100,000 next year to do the work, but we have not identified an area quite yet. We are still trying to find anywhere that might still need to be lined. The low bidder has done this work for us previously several times, and we have no issues with them. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just got a quick question, Rick. On the three bids that did go out, have we used the other companies as well as this one?
So we have used two of them. The SAK is out of Kansas City, and they are generally just a little bit higher than the others. And I think it's largely due to their mobilization cost to come down and do the work all the way from Kansas City.
And then are we always going to be doing the rehab, or is there a sunset, if you will, on being done with rehabbing it?
So this year is the last line that we've identified that we know that we need to do. We are still looking at all of our lines. We do a pretty good job of checking our lines, so we feel like we know the condition of all of our lines. We do have monies set aside for the 22 budget. However, we may not have to spend that, and that money can be redirected in the future to help pay for that 10-inch line that needs to be replaced. So we have possibility to spend another place. We will continue to spend additionally about $25,000 per year on manhole alignments because those are going to be forever and ongoing. We will continue with that program.
Thanks, Rick.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
along the same question, you've lined it by blowing it from the inside, right? So how long does that last, and how long before we have to reblow the same?
So when they start telling us it's 100 years, they just don't really know, but it's a long time out. Our latest documents we've got on this process is about 100 years. So extremely long time. It basically turns it into a plastic pipe. So if you have an old clay tile pipe, what you're lining it with is a plastic pipe. So it extends the life a very long time.
Nice.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the proposal from utility maintenance contractor.
Any further discussion? Motion carries 6-0. Traffic signal, Andover Road and US 54-400 project agreement.
So as you more than likely recall, we've added one more traffic signal at Andover Road in Harry, and that's up and running. We also have some future traffic signals to be added along Andover Road in the coming year or two. With those comes headaches sometimes, traffic through. We started looking at how to best optimize the flow of traffic during peak flow hours. There's a process that can be done. It requires a little bit of engineering and work that Trans Systems has sent us a proposal for. I will tell you that Trans Systems is also already got part of that work up on the northern part. If you'll notice on the map, it only goes up to, the reality is it goes all the way 21st, because those signals, they're going to do the optimization part of that as part of that signal project. So we're not have to pay for it twice, and we can time it together. They want to start to work now while school's in session as far as getting the traffic counts, because obviously that's our peak flow times is when school's in session. In the summer, it drops off drastically, or if school's not in session for some reason. So Slade with Trans Systems is here if you have any specific questions for them on this agreement, but I feel like this will help us keep our flow of traffic and our peak flow hours better optimized and prevent you hopefully from having to stop at every light as you go north on Andover Road or south on Andover Road.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
City of Wichita and I believe Derby are either testing out or have implemented kind of an AI-based lighting, and it's saved. I think it was down from 6 to 3 minutes on traversing West Street from a pretty long section. I think it was West Street. Is that something that we were looking at as well? I mean, I don't think that's what this is, but.
Go ahead.
He came all this way. Let him talk.
So it was Maple Street. Are you talking about the WAMPO presentations we did about a year or so ago, seems like? So yes, Derby has worked on Rock Road extensively as they've been bringing signals online, and we've done, or part of both of these projects with both Derby and the city of Wichita. Maple Street was done in part with the I-235 project as they were doing some of the construction out there. We found that we were going to be necking down Kellogg during certain portions of that, where it was going to cause some significant delays along Kellogg through the I-235 area. So one of the solutions we did was a two-part solution where we put DMS signs out along Maple Street to help warn drivers what the travel time along Kellogg was. And then we improved Maple from Mays all the way into roughly downtown. And both of those projects were highly successful. We saw about a 50% reduction in travel times in the peaks in particular. Like you're saying, it was 3 minutes. When you start adding that up delay savings wise and things like that, that's a huge number when you take it out every day for 365 days. So yes, it is the same thing. It was just time-based coordination. It wasn't anything too fancy, which is what we're looking at here. It's not a
Wait,
central.
so this is the same thing?
It's not a central system or anything like that yet, but we can very cheaply put GPS clocks in the existing equipment, or maybe have to change out a controller or something like that so it can accept the time. And once you can get the time clocks all set the same way, you can have them turn the greens successively down the corridor. So it really comes down to making sure your clocks are all set. With the advent of the GPS clock right now, you don't necessarily have to go to a more advanced system to keep everything like a master controller or anything like that. So it's a relatively cheap way that you can still get the same bang for your buck without a whole lot of work. I will say it's not the same controllers and things like that using, but it is the same time-based system, time-of-day system.
Is the same result, basically.
You should.
That'd be fabulous.
Yeah, I would say you will see some decreased travel times along the corridor. What happens is on the side roads, sometimes people will start feeling like they're waiting a long time because you got to wait for those bands to come through. So that's the kind of downside. They're really not waiting any longer than they did before. It just feels like it because you may have one car coming through and you're still waiting there for a long time. It doesn't just snap around to you. Rick and I have talked about doing this maybe just for the peaks to start out with, and then working towards, tuning it a little bit more after that. So there's some things we can do to kind of combat some of that, to make sure that those types of complaints don't happen. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Further,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the agreement with Trans Systems Corporation, Wichita, Kansas for the Andover Road and US 54-400 signal optimization project and not to exceed amount of $29,000.
Second, Troy.
Any further discussion? Favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Members' items.
I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor.
No executive session tonight?
Nobody? Nobody. Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second, Troy.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank y'all.